You call them leaders. I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence.
We have a large armada, flotilla, call it whatever you want, heading toward Iran.
We're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options.
Iran's latest counterattack on Donald Trump is not on the battlefield with military drills, but in the realm of words, accusing Washington and Israel of using Goebbels-like propaganda to demonize Tehran and distort facts about its missile, nuclear files, and internal unrest. Well, at the heart of this war of narratives lies a century-old concept, the Nazi doctrine of the big lies. In fact, Iranian Foreign Ministry Spokesperson Ismail Baqai has charged that the United States and Israel are running a coordinated campaign of big lies about Iran's nuclear ambitions, ballistic missiles program, and most importantly, the death toll in the recent protest. In a post on X, he wrote that professional liars in Washington and the genocidal Israeli regime are systematically repeating false claims until they appear true, explicitly invoking Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler's infamous propaganda chief. Baqai's remarks came after President Donald Trump claimed that Iran has already developed missiles threatening Europe and US bases in Gulf and is working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America, while accusing Tehran of killing 32,000 people in this unrest. Obviously, Tehran dismissed these allegations as fabricated and politically timid, arguing that they fit a Goebbels-style formula: say something shocking, repeat it endlessly, and count on the world to believe it. Well, in this edition of From the News Desk, we will tell you what exactly is this Goebbels propaganda and is Trump really using it to build pressure on Iran. Joseph Goebbels served as Nazi Germany's Minister of Propaganda, building an apparatus that controlled radio, films, the press, and culture to flood Germans with a single total narrative. He perfected techniques that relied on emotional slogans, relentless repetition, and the suppression of alternative voices to manufacture consent for anti-Semitism, war, and dictatorship. And central to the system was the big lie, a propaganda method in which a massive brazen falsehood is asserted with such a confidence and repeated so often that people eventually accept it as truth. Nazi propagandists used this tool to blame Jews for Germany's defeat in World War I and to justify persecution and genocides, turning deep-seated prejudice into a coherent murderous ideology. In fact, modern scholars note that big lie campaigns typically rely on a simple few talking points, hammered into public consciousness across multiple platforms until they become almost impossible to dislodge. When Iranian officials say the US and Israel are using Goebbels-like propaganda, they are accusing them of exactly this, constructing an overarching false narrative about Iran and then amplifying it through governments, media, and social media platforms. In fact, Iranian officials argue that claims about Iran secretly racing for a bomb, exaggerations of its missile reach, and the hugely inflated protest death toll are simply the repetition of big lies, meant to pave the way for more pressure and possibly a military action. In Tehran's view, Trump's dramatic warning that Iran will soon have missiles capable of hitting the US homeland delivered despite intelligence doubts exemplifies a Goebbels-style use of fear, a shocking assertion repeated until it frames the entire debate. And by invoking Goebbels, Iran is trying to turn the moral tables, casting itself as a victim of a Nazi-inspired disinformation machine and campaign, while portraying US and Israeli messaging as a deliberate, historically familiar strategy to turn fiction into acceptable facts.